Alright guys, it's mattrod here with Control Free, and I'm back with 5 beginner tips on how to EQ your mix. So tip number 1 is cut before you boost. You got to start by identifying and cutting the frequencies that are unwanted or muddy in each track before you start boosting the frequencies. That way you know you're not boosting any garbage in the sound. Alright guys, so here I'm going to show you an example of subtractive EQ and why it's important. I just want to note 2 things here. One, you have to know what you're EQing. If you're EQing drums, then you're probably going to keep the lower frequencies. If you're EQing vocals, you're going to want to keep the mid to highs, and you don't want to subtract things that might take important information from your from your audio. And so first here, I'm just going to give one brief example of what you should do on almost all vocal takes. Is take out anything from 100 hertz and below. You can move this from anywhere from 60 to 100 depending on the person you're recording. Or whose vocals it is. So here's it without it.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life?
Now here's what it's on.
Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get.
So basically this is important to have when you're cutting before you EQ. It's gonna allow the parts that you boost later on to come out more in the mix, and we're gonna go over that later in this video. Alright, so tip number 2 is listen in context. EQ adjustments should always be made in the context of the entire mix. Soloing a track can lead to over EQing. Instead, make adjustments while listening to how it fits with other instruments. So you can solo a track to hear what the problems are in the mix, and then it's always good to check immediately after you make any effects with the solo track is to see how it sits in the entire mix. And I'll give you an example here. Alright, so now that we have an example that we already soloed and did some subtractive EQ, I can show you where I can turn on my EQ that has the boost on it. This will bring the vocal out a little bit more. You can hear it without it on right now.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life?
So now here's what it on.
Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life.
So that's what it on. And so now we hear it solo. It sounds decent solo, but let's hear it while it's played with the entire song in the mix.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life? Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life.
Alright, so it seems like the beat is a little bit too dropped, and I think what we can do here is another example of subtractive EQing. So what you can do to bring out the vocals a lot of the times is you can EQ the beat. Make sure you're not taking off any wanted frequencies. But we can EQ the beat to make more room and more headspace for the vocals. So usually in the 1,000 to 4,000 range, there's some areas where the main part of the vocal will sit. And this is different for everybody. This is just an example I know that will work on my vocal. So what we're going to do is we'll play the beat.
Trying to get by, trying to get.
And we're going to take before we play the beat, we're going to take a bell curve point and we're going to put it around 1 to 4,000 hertz. And just.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life?
And then move it around till you start hearing the vocal.
Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life.
Now we can hear the vocal a little more clearer. This is a rough mix, by the way, so it's got a lot more work to be done. Here, let's listen to it solo. Again, and then the full mix.
Better get on with your own vibe.
And then you're going to want to probably go back and forth, fixing and balancing the instrumental compared to the vocals and vice versa. And just make sure you don't overthink it too much. If you start doing a little too much, you might be taking away a lot of important parts of the song. Alright, so tip number 3 is to use narrow Q for problem solving. This goes back to tip number 1, cut before you boost. You can use the Q on the EQ to find problem frequencies and slowly subtract them out. and I'll show you that right here. Okay, so here we're going to show an example of how to sweep for bad frequencies and subtract them out. Back to tip number 1, still using subtractive frequency before we boost, cut before you boost. I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of cutting in the frequencies, especially if you have your own non-soundproof booth or if you're recording in your room. This can be extremely helpful. All right, so let's get right to it. Here's the main vocal. I have some subtractive frequencies already going on this one, so I'll leave that there, and I'll just use this as an example here. So we take our point and we turn the Q all the way up so that it's a very, very narrow point. Sometimes maybe you want to do it a little bit wider to get more range in the sound and find the problems that way. So now we're going to play the song. And we're going to push this all the way up and scan for bad noises or bad frequencies. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. So we found one right there. Let's hear it again. Trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life? Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. So right there. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to slowly bring that down around the same area and subtract it out. Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life? Better get on with your own vibe. And you can do this over and over again until for however many points you have of EQ, and then you can add an EQ boost after. I'm gonna get rid of this because we're gonna be boosting soon. But so that's basically how you sweep and scan using the Q to find problem frequencies. Tip number 4 is avoid extreme settings. I know a lot of times you hear a cool sound, a cool plugin, you just got figured out how to get it to work, and you're super excited about it, and you want to blast so you can hear that one effect you're putting on. I would say find your sound, balance each effect, and sometimes what I like to do is I'll throw the effect all the way wet in the mix and then go backwards until it's and take it to the more drier side till it sits correctly in the mix and it's not overbearing. This is something that we all do as beginners, and we've all got caught up doing, especially with reverb. I know you've done it. Don't lie to me. All right, so here we're going to show an example of overdoing an effect and how to avoid that, and the best way to keep the effect sound in your mix while still maintaining a good balance. All right, so here we're going to use a phaser flanger. I never know how to say this, flanger. And we're going to use that, and if you have a phaser in your DAW, feel free to use it, or feel free to use reverb, delay, or any effect that you want to be heard on your mix in whatever song you're using. All right, so here is our sample without the phaser on. Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life? All right, so there's that. Now here's with the phaser on all the way. Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life? So it sounds great. It's almost there. It's just it's panning too much. It's taking too much over on the vocal. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna work backwards. So we have the effect all the way up. We hear that we like it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna listen to it while taking some of the effect away until it sits at the perfect point that we want it to sit in the mix. Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life? And you do this with the dry wet signal. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own life. Better get on with your own vibe. Better get on with your own. And that sounds balanced there. And if you have headphones on, you can hear it. It's very subtle, but it's going left to right, and it's creating width and a stereo effect into the solo mono vocals. All right, so that's that example there. And tip number 5 is a golden tip. You always got to use a reference track. I said this in my last video, and I'll say this in this one. It's so important to use reference tracks when you're mixing so that you know exactly what a professional sound in the genre you're trying to create sounds like. So you have a prime example to use it, so you have a prime example to use so that your sound can become as close, if not indistinguishably similar. All right, so you made it to the end of the video, and yeah, I got a different shirt on just because I felt like it. And as promised, here is your bonus tip. All right, so the bonus tip here is actually more of an example. We're going to be showing you how to boost EQ and boost certain parts of whichever audio track you're focusing on and help it sit higher in the mix by boosting it. Since we've already done our subtractive EQ, now what we would do next is boost the EQ and get the right parts of the audio that we want to sit higher in the mix. And for vocals, a lot of the times anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 hertz, you can add a high-end boost by creating a shelf point, and or however you want to do it, and boosting the vocal with this. So we're going to turn this off, and you're going to hear it.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life?
Without the EQ boost, and then here's with the EQ boost on.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life?
And there's more presence. And then again, we take the solo track off like we did in our previous tip and listen to it in the entire mix.
Trying to get by, trying to get fly. Why do you want to be stuck in my life?
Now the vocal has more presence. And with more presence, you're able to figure out where and how to make it sit better in the mix. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like the video, comment below. Tell me what you didn't like about it. Tell me what you love. Tell me a random fact. Just leave a comment below. I appreciate you. Thanks. Until next time.